Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
Welcome to this inaugural episode of One Cage at a Time, a show where we will be painstakingly breaking down each and every film that the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage has ever starred in, one film at a time. First up, how many women can a grown man punch, kick, and elbow directly in the face before it's no longer satisfying? We'll find out the answer to this question and much more as we break down The Wicker Man.
Spoiler, as many as he wants.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat a-hole?
Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and being until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
Edward Malus is a Northern California motorcycle cop whose ex-fiancée Willow Woodward informs him that her daughter Rowan has disappeared and asks for his assistance in her search. When he arrives at the island where Rowan was last seen, he suspects something sinister about the neo-pagans who reside on the island. It is of course a remake of the far superior, but not great, 1973 film of the same name.
The first one was not great. Everybody holds that one in super high esteem, but it's a weird,
it was like a cult movie.
It's like an art house film with way more singing and way more nudity than you would expect.
Yeah.
It was genuinely missed in this film,
Yeah, that this one didn't have all that.
Yeah, I was waiting for the crazy naked dance from the original.
They really had to stick that PG-13 rating, I think.
Yeah.
They needed the wide appeal of a remake to a 30-year-old movie.
Yeah, in the commentary, Neil Labute, he said that the original intention was to make it R-rated, but then he decided in the edit to make it PG-13 to appeal to a wider audience.
All right, well, yeah,
I mean, mission accomplished.
Yeah, they did appeal to a wider audience, but it wasn't the audience that they were hoping for. It was the meme audience.
Let's meet the stars of the film.
So this film had amazing actors in it. It had Ellen Burstyn, Kate Beahan, Leelee Sobieski, and of course our hero, the Academy Award-winning actor, Nicolas Kim Coppola, or as we better know him as Nicolas Cage.
Yeah!
It's time to go over some of the finer details.
The movie was released September 1st, 2006, to not a great opening. I think it was like 9 million, so it was like third when it first came out. Had a $40 million budget and made 38.8 worldwide.
Oh,
dang.
So it wasn't a bomb per se, but
didn't
even break even.
Yeah. Movies have to make 3 times their budget typically to actually approach breaking even status because of usually the production cost is a half or a third of the overall money they spent when you count marketing and stuff. So
marketing.
Plus they don't get the entire box office revenue because they share it with the theaters. So their general box office accounting is you got to make back 3 times your production budget to be considered starting to make money.
Yeah. So I guess it was
definitely
a major bomb.
Yeah.
The movie, of course, is based on The Wicker Man, the 1973 version, but it was the original was based off of a book named Ritual by David Pinner, which apparently this version is actually more accurate to the book than the 73 version. Though 80% of the lines in the screenplay for the new one came from the original, which seems lazy, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Straight up word for word?
Word for
the same
word.
lines?
Yeah, it's the same lines, but in different contexts and stuff. He really moved things around. And Neil Labute was... Is it Labute or is it Labute? He said it on the commentary, and I don't remember.
How's it spelled?
It's Franche.
Yeah, but he's definitely not.
Neither is Brett Favre.
No. So this was a passion project from Neil Aboud. He saw the original. Apparently, the original didn't make itself to the U.S. until like 6 years after it was released. So he didn't see it until like 1979 in an art house. And he thought, wow, what a weird, creepy, but fun movie. And has devoted a big portion of his life to making sure that this wonderful version came out.
That's crazy. That's actually pretty interesting.
That he was approached by Nicolas Cage's production company. He actually has his own studio called Saturn Films, which if you look through his IMDb, almost every movie he's ever been in has been a co-production with Saturn Films.
Oh, that makes sense.
This movie has a 15% score on Rotten Tomatoes. And
Is that the audience?
I thought the audience score was going to be better, but it's actually only 17%. So, real bad.
Wow.
I did see like Google put it at like 53 or 57% of people really liked it.
That's the meme audience.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just meme.
Metacritic score was 36%. So I guess that's a little better than 15, but not much.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
Nicolas Cage has publicly said that they intended to make this movie funny from the very beginning, which is obviously not true. And he
it's real knee slapper.
Yeah. He said it was going to be like a dark comedy, which it is.
I got vibes of that. But it doesn't. It sounded like it seemed like unintentional dark comedy. Which, if that was intentional, they did a really good job of it. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's how it panned out. And maybe he's after the fact saying that to soften the blow a little bit from critics.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy Wiseau said that he made The Room intentionally funny as well, which he obviously did not. He's also said that he is enormously proud of his performance in the film. Which,
I feel bad for him.
Like, his performance is all over the place. I remember in the commentary, Neil Aboud said that when he did the "How'd It Get Burned" scene that it turned into a meme, he was like, on the page it was nothing, but then he just went for it in the scene. Like, maybe he shouldn't have gone quite as hard, but that's kind of. I once heard Nicolas Cage. His performances in film is swinging for the fences each and every time out, and I think that's what is so great about him and why he's so hard to not watch. Like, every film he's in, it doesn't matter what movie it is, he's incredibly engaging and like you can't take your eyes off him.
Yeah, he's very animated.
Which is exactly why we're doing this show. This is a great excuse to just watch every single performance he's ever done. Robin Hardy, who directed the original 1973 film, read the screenplay and actually decided to have his name completely removed from the credits.
What a loving homage. You can imagine how the director of Laboot felt like. Yeah. Hey, look what I've done! I love your work so much. He's like, I
watched this as a kid. It changed my life. This is an amazing film. No thanks.
It's a heartwarming story.
80% of the dialogue, though, like I said, is word for word from the original, although rearranged quite a bit. Christopher Lee also did the same thing. Like, they wanted him to have a cameo in it, because he played the original Summer Isle, which is something we'll talk about, is they changed it to Summer's Isle in this version because they thought that it would be easier for Americans to say Summer's Isle rather than Summer Isle, which I think is the opposite, but that's just my opinion. But Christopher Lee was supposed to make a cameo of some sort in the movie, and he politely declined. The movie was nominated for 5 Golden Raspberry Awards, including Worst Picture, Worst Actor, and Worst Screenplay.
Whoa, worst actor.
Worst actor, yeah. This is only the second horror movie that Nick Cage has ever made, which is surprising. I thought there were a lot more horror movies early on, but no, it was just the second one.
What's the other one?
Vampire's Kiss, which is going to be on our our first season here. The movie, like I said, was originally supposed to be an R-rated film, but during the cut, they decided to make it a PG-13 film, which is such a weird thing. Like, if you watch the unrated version, which I did, it's obvious that they intended it to be an R-rated movie because, like, he gets his knees broken in one scene, and the bees scene where they sting his face. Lots more cursing.
It was way more graphic in the unrated.
Yeah. Winona Ryder was actually approached to play Willow Woodward in the film, which would have been a much different performance. Kate Beahan's performance I described as a signature teary-eyed, I think I just saw somebody spit in my coffee expression on her face throughout pretty much the entire movie. Like, even at the end, like, you can't, they said in the commentary that it was like, she was trying to play it on both sides. Like, she was torn, between her, spoilers, her duty to kill this guy and her love for this man that she apparently almost married, but then bailed on. And then the last little fact, the first choice for Edward Malus was actually Liam Neeson, which would have been really interesting.
Yeah.
How did it get burned?
There would have just been weird accents all over the place because Kate Beahan is Australian. Or I know it's Beahan or Beahan, I don't know. So she kind of had a weird accent thing going, but it was also like this group of people who've been cut off for generations would all have weird accents anyway, so it kind of fit. But if you had her and then you had like Liam Neeson's weird American accent, a California cop.
Might have been interesting if they did kind of an homage to the original. I mean, he's Irish, obviously, but like the original is set in Scotland, so maybe if they had him like put on kind of a Scottish thing.
They should have just brought Sean Connery in.
How did it get burned? I can't do it. Can't do a Sean Connery.
All right, it's time to break down the film one scene at a time. Act 1. Why don't we set some shit up?
Nick Cage is a motorcycle cop sharing a coffee shop with Aaron Eckhart for 2 seconds.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah.
I had
Just
no
like
idea.
one little shot of like the side of his face. He drinks some coffee and then he takes off. Which Neil LaBute apparently puts Aaron Eckhart in everything that he does. We see a quick montage of him pulling over various Northern California morons such as myself. Before he smoothly swipes the doll, some kid drops out of the window off of the highway. He pulls over the driver of the car, gives the doll back to the kid, and the creepy ass, like, that girl was super creepy. Valley of the Dolls level creepy. Chucks it back into the highway as soon as he like walks up and gives it to her. To which our hero heads to retrieve the doll, but is rudely interrupted by a semi-truck, which, upon swerving to avoid the one true God himself, slams head on with the car, thus saving us from blonde weirdos and humanity from a world without Nicolas Cage. The car bursts into flames with the doll tosser trapped inside, which is a big win. Tosser. It's a big win in my books. Nick Cage, of course, feels obligated to try and pull the Hitler Youth dropout from the car. But it blows up first, throwing Mr. Coppola to the ground, knocking him out. So that's kind of the
Did you guys notice, like, during the intro, there was, like, papyrus font for the opening credits? Like, that was the first thing I wrote. I was like, papyrus font? Really?
Yeah. Well, you know.
That's your first impression you want to give people of this movie?
Yeah, I think they were trying, for Summer Style.
Yeah, they were trying to, like, copy sort of a vibe of the font that they used in the first movie. They used the same font in this movie for the opening title, but then I guess the credits, they were like, shit, there's nothing that's similar. Papyrus.
It's just like, are you trying to go maybe the new age, pagan hippie whatever thing? And it was just like, to me, I was like, it's papyrus. Maybe it was less well known in 2006 and it wasn't as much of a meme.
Just like Avatar. Did you see that, that SNL sketch? That was so good. We cut to black, and then it goes to our hero finds himself chilling on the couch, depressed, popping pills and watching cowboy movies like we all do on the weekends.
It's like quarantine.
Yeah.
Relevant.
When he is rudely interrupted by a sunken-eyed skeleton cop.
She's freakishly tall, too.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Who is apparently delivering his mail. Like, why didn't they send the mail to his house? I mean, they're supposed to be like get well cards and stuff. But eventually, we find out why she delivers the mail. But even in the commentary, they were like, that we didn't think that was clear, and I worried about it the whole time. I was like, well, if you don't know that it's clear and you made the movie, she ends up giving him the fateful letter, which alerts him to the fact that his ex-fiance's perfect child, that's how she describes that kid in the letter. She's a perfect child. Has gone missing from the hippie commune she lives in on the island of Summers Isle. Not Summer Isle anymore, as in the first one, but Summers Isle.
They also did point out that letter did not have a postage stamp to it. So I don't think it ever makes it clear how it gets delivered to the police station, I guess.
Well, the cop is in the commune. She shows up at the end. You see her at the end.
I didn't even see that.
I have a couple of questions about that. Yeah, spoiler.
Yeah, me as well.
Anyway, Summers Isle is somewhere in the Puget Sound. Nick searches online and finds out the hippie commune is a honey farm, and then gets a spooky phone call for absolutely no reason. Like, what was the spooky phone call about? That's another question I have. Were they listening to him or watching him like read the letter and saw him go online? He heads on over to the police station and lets everyone know exactly where he's going, who he's going there to find, how long he plans to be gone, a wax stamp with the sigil of the farm he's going to, probably DNA and fingerprints on the envelope, and a picture of the little girl who will eventually light the fire that burns him to death. So, there's probably no chance they'll ever figure out what happened to him. There's a Coppola quick fact here is in the police station, you can actually see a missing persons photo of the guy from the original Wicker Man.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought that was
a cool Easter egg.
Yeah.
I don't know why Northern California police station would have a cold case on their thing of something that happened in Scotland 30 years ago.
This case is just similar to that case from Scotland.
Been trying to catch these guys for 30 years.
30 years. One day.
That is a really cool Easter egg, though. I like that.
Yeah, that is actually really cool.
I thought that was cool. Mr. Cage hops a ferry and splashes himself with a half a gallon of Aquavella.
Okay, I'm not the only one that thought that was weird.
It's because he was going to meet his ex. So he still had a thing for her.
That makes sense. Okay.
He drowned half the bottle, though, dude.
He put a lot of Aquavella on.
He's got to cover up the Irish coffee smell. He's probably just boozing it up there, and so he had to, oh shit, cover that up. They'll never notice.
I thought it was a way for him to repel the constant onslaught of gorgeous women who will be looking to be the next Mrs. Cage. But
true,
because nothing repels people like Aquavelva. One of my favorite parts of the whole movie. He sees a little girl on the ferry wearing the outfit that Rowan, the little girl from the photo in the letter, is wearing, because as we all know, everybody wears the same outfit all the time, like a cartoon character. So he assumes that it might be this little girl on there. The little girl is hilariously run over by a semi-truck on board a ferry in the middle of the ocean, which is one of the funniest, not meaning to be funny things I've ever seen.
That's where I was like, all right, so it's a dark comedy. That's what we're going for with this movie. It is. It's just cut like a comedy shot. Like,
it really
you
is.
just needed a laugh track and it would have been gold.
It was like something out of a scary movie or one of those parody movies.
That caught me so off guard and made me laugh so hard. Coppola quick fact. That was actually supposed to be just her on the ferry with bees surrounding her, but they thought, well, he hasn't even been to the island. Why the hell would he know about the bees? This is supposed to be like his own head generating these weird flashbacks that he has over and over throughout the film. And then it was the editor who made that decision. It wasn't the director to not make it bees. So the director was like, put in bees. I don't know. Fuck it. Show's about bees. There's a lot of bees in there. I thought it was so funny, just the semi truck running over on board a fucking ferry.
Yeah.
It turns out to be a waking daymare, potentially brought on by the pills that he just keeps chugging. He just keeps popping these pills.
Yeah.
And washing them down with Starbucks, has himself a good chuckle, and then he just moves on with his day.
Yeah, that was the best part, was his reaction was just like, all right.
Some messed up stuff, man. Nick then bribes a crotchety pilot who makes regular deliveries to Summers Isle, whose price for betraying the trust of the people who helped keep a roof over his head and allowing some random dude he's never met before trespass on their island are 2 crisp $50 bills. That's all it took.
The other thing I want to say about that is he meets that guy like right as he's walking down the dock coming off of the ferry.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever taken a ferry before, but it's a dedicated terminal for the ferries coming in and out. It's not
a wood dock.
It's not like a lakeside dock that you can just walk off and get on a seaplane and take off because he's just sitting there loading it. It was just one of those like script conveniences where it's like, yeah, he meets he's on the water. There's obviously going to be a pilot there, right there.
There'd be a plane in shallow water right next to the... They take off across the Puget Sound towards the island that he at one point says that he could swim to, as it's only a couple miles away. But then they fly for so long that they need to add crossfades to make it seem like more time has passed. I didn't get that. Like, I could just swim to that island. Okay, we're going to travel for 3 hours now.
Mm-hmm.
What was the point of taking the ferry too at that point?
Yeah, like what, he took the ferry to what? Just some random island in the San Juans and was like, anybody know where this island is?
I'm guessing maybe it was like, like the Seattle to like Oak Harbor ferry, which this is showing we're all Washington
natives.
Natives from Washington.
So this Puget Sound for me specifically. So
I'm the only one who doesn't live there anymore. I live in Northern California, as you see.
Weirdly enough, they're both places in the movie.
Yeah.
Northern California and Pacific Northwest.
Kind of
it's made for
oddly
us.
Kismet, yeah. The pilot drops Nicholas in an uninhabited part of the island to hike to the creepy commune through the woods in a suit.
It's not even they dropped him off. He comes walking like out of the water in his suit. Like the pilot just dropped him off in a bay, like somewhere instead of, and then he's walking like through the woods. Yeah. Like he's just hiking. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the next shot after there's like 3 shots of him just walking through the woods.
Yep.
Like in a suit with his suit briefcase or whatever. And then it shows him on a pathway, like walking up toward the village, like he made it. But the plane is there in the water, like in the bay, in the background.
I said,
there's a perfectly functional dock that he could have landed and walked off on.
Well, I mean, the idea was to make it to where nobody would know that the pilot was the one who dropped him off. But this random ass stranger walks right up to the people of the island who obviously all know he's not supposed to be there. Like they're not going to make the connection that the pilot is the one who brought him to the island in the middle of nowhere. Like, what, you just take a kayak out there?
Well, he could have swim to it, apparently.
Yeah.
I want that scene then when he's like, just put me down on that shore over there. And the guy's like, what? I can't just let you out and take off again and fly around to the other quarter mile to the other side of the island.
I mean, that's also not really explained. I mean, wouldn't it take more than $100 just to pay for the takeoff and landing and then takeoff and landing again? I don't know.
I would think so. He was already on his way there, so it's not like it cost him anything extra to make the trip.
But he had to drop him off in some random part of the
drop
island.
him off at the other part of the island and then fly back around.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that those planes can actually like kind of almost drive on top of the water.
I think they can taxi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe
they can taxi.
It's probably way less fuel efficient than flying, though. I would imagine, because you're dragging yourself through the water. But I don't know. Maybe an aviator knows more about it than me. I didn't make the connection that he wanted to be incognito in his suit and tie on an island full of people. It looks like they're stuck in the 1800s.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, every person on that island would know every single person intimately.
Yeah.
But these people grew up and lived around each other every single day. They go to like church together or whatever they worship there and have events together where they all dress as animals and do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Act 2, the conflict.
Here we see after he walks up, presumably out of nowhere, to these complete strangers. The Summers Isle folks are dragging a dead kid or a shark or something in a
His
bag.
Was that a shark or something?
I wrote that down as one of my quotes.
It's never mentioned again, by the way, and we never find out what's in that bag, rendering it pointless aside from adding another jump scare that was just as dumb as the phantom phone call earlier. Yeah, I didn't get that at all. Like, why didn't you show it? And then in the commentary, Neil LaBute said we wanted to make it mysterious and never reveal what was in it. And I was like, well, what the fuck was the point of it in the first place?
I'm saving it for the Coppola Questions segment because that's one of my big ones.
I had a Coppola quick fact there is that was actually a little man inside of the bag.
Jesus.
Who apparently was a treasure on the set to work with. Everybody really liked him. The little
But
man.
he's not in the movie.
He's not in the movie.
I mean,
They hired a guy to be in a burlap
They
sack.
hired a little person just to do a jump scare for something and then kept him around to hang out on set.
Our boy makes his way to a bar/hotel or brothel. I don't know what that is.
Hey, it's this island that doesn't allow visitors, has a fully functioning hotel in it.
Okay.
And don't they call it like the mating house? Is that the name of it?
I didn't catch that. That's
I didn't
good.
either.
I'm pretty sure she's like, oh yeah, Willow's up at the mating house in the mating inn or something
Sure
like
wasn't
that.
meeting house where they meet?
I don't know. I couldn't understand their accents. They're all over the
Could
place.
be meeting house. Yeah, that makes sense. Mating house is a little more like the first movie, where it's just there was just crazy sex happening like randomly in the street. I don't know if you remember that, but there was a scene where he walks out of that hotel and sees like a bunch of people just having sex in the street for no reason, never mentioned again, and then he just walks by like
Summer's orgy.
The director just wanted to film an orgy.
Yeah. I didn't even feel like it was part of the movie. It was just so weird. And then there was like a naked girl crying in the graveyard for some reason. Yeah. Also never mentioned again. That movie was all sorts of weird. Gets way more praise than it should, I think. In this meeting house, he kicks off a chain of events, a chain of dick moves that 100% warrant the eventual demise that we'll get to shortly. First, however, he needs to have a quiet, creepy staring contest with his old flame, Willow, who apparently works as a waitress in the bar once and never again. Because there's that one girl that you see a bunch working there, but you never see Willow actually working at the bar.
Apparently, the girl's name is Honey.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Nick chugs down some mead and then talks down to a younger version of Dwight Schrute's Aunt Shirley from The Office.
If you didn't know that his character is like an alcoholic or something, I think chugging the mead would be a good indicator of it. Because I don't know if you ever had mead, but it's like wine. So it's like he just chugged a glass of wine. He was drinking it like it was a cold beer or something, which I think a lot of people think mead is if you've never had it, but it is like a sweet honey wine where it's super dry.
Yeah.
So I thought it was funny that he just bottoms up and drinks a whole tankard of it.
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of implicated, but I never really got any clarity on it is, and it never really comes up again because he never really drinks anything else, was that they kind of like looked at each other like knowingly, like they just drugged him or something. Like they put something in that mead, and then that's going to lead to freakouts. I don't know what the hell that was about.
I thought they were just sharing looks because they knew who he was, and it's revealed later that they knew he was supposed to be there for a reason and stuff. Originally, I thought it was just, what's this weirdo man doing here? Like it's this, matriarchal society that doesn't allow outsiders, and all of a sudden you got a guy in a suit coming in, acting like he owns the place. So it could be any number of looks, but yeah, them drugging him would also make sense.
The suit I was confused about for quite a while of like, why would he wear a suit? But then
Me too.
In the commentary, they said presumably because he was about to meet his old flame and he wanted to look as good as possible. But why wouldn't he pack any other clothes? He just wears that damn suit.
Yeah, he wears the suit for like 3 days.
Yeah.
he's a highway cop, not a detective. Yeah, it's like, why are you wearing a suit? This doesn't make this is out of character for you.
Yeah. They even specifically make a point that he's not a detective because they ask, "Oh, you going to be a detective now?" Like when the other cop lady comes to visit him earlier on and asks if he's going to become a detective because he doesn't want to be a beat cop anymore or a chip cop.
Yeah. In the original, he wears the police suit the whole time, so that makes sense. That's the big like underlying thing of this movie versus the original. Is like everything that happened aside from the weird orgy in the street and the naked girl in the graveyard and a few other things. Most of it made sense to why he was there, what was happening, what they were doing. Even the naked dancing actually makes sense because they were trying to test him to see if he would remain a virgin throughout. Spoilers for the 73 version if you haven't seen it yet. Anyways, next he crazily smacks his badge on the counter and tells this group of women that all look like the cast of Heidi filling the restaurant, bar, hotel, whatever the fuck this place is exactly, that he's there on official police business. By the way, fun fact, all rednecks from Washington hate all people from California. So he immediately is way on their shit list.
That scene is super accurate to real life.
Yes. Yeah. Then his big like shitty move to them is he smashes a bee on the counter, which really pisses off a room full of people whose lives depend on bees because he's allergic. Which in the commentary they said that was put in just to add like a sense of danger because he's on this island filled with bees. I don't know that it was fully necessary, but
it actually pissed me off, and I'm not even one of the women who worship the bees. I was just like, why do you kill a fucking bumblebee, like, or a honeybee? That's not going to hurt you. Why'd you smash it? Yeah, all it did was make me just think this guy's a dick. He just killed a bee for no reason.
You know, that, like I said, a series of dick moves.
The whole scene just paints him as a bad guy.
Yeah. A quick couple of quick fact on that. The lip on that mead jar would have meant that there was no way that he would have smashed that bee at all. There would have been plenty of room for that bee. Willow then leads him to the beach where she convinces the dude she bailed on to help her find her missing perfect child. There's more we could talk about that scene, but I just kind of found it funny that he is just immediately like, of course I'm going to help you. Next, we see a set of old blind twins who inexplicably speak in unison with every breath throughout the entire movie. Every time they talk, they speak in unison and just have a creepy, stupid look on their faces the whole time. I thought that was such a like unnecessarily dumb, creepy thing to add into the movie. But these are the first of many, many twins we'll see throughout the movie, which, you know, nothing adds creep factor better than twins besides maybe little people. Which they should have had that little guy in the burlap bag.
They had the little person, you know?
Yeah. They said in the commentary that was kind of like, because of these people kind of inbreeding, there would be a lot of twins just because of genes and, you know, genetics throughout the island and stuff. But I think they wanted to kind of echo the weird blind twins throughout with the little kids. Like this is the future version of those old crazy blind women. Nick Cage overhears some shady shit, including talk of the day of tomorrow, the time of death and rebirth, the Wicker Man's return, and other exposition in that little scene where he's just looking for his tapes, his self-help tapes that he had.
Yeah. That are not a point of the movie. Like they're never referenced again.
No, never. I mean, they were referenced at the very, very beginning, which he was buying self-help tapes before the incident,
before the accident
that led him to start popping pills. So he was already a disturbed.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. He's like, someone stole my tapes. Yeah. Why?
I mean, I'm guessing that he wanted to nod off while he's taking his pills that he keeps popping.
But I mean, why did they steal the tapes?
I don't know. Maybe just to put him
keep
on
him
edge.
on edge. Maybe. Yeah, that makes sense.
He runs into another waitress / maid or whatever eating an apple, who unfortunately doesn't do that crazy batshit naked dance from the original. I was waiting for it the first time I watched it, where she like taps on the wall and sings that super rapey song to tempt Nick Cage into having sex with him. I actually wrote a little excerpt from that song from the original one, which is, Fair maid, white and red, comb you smooth and stroke your head. How a maid can milk a bowl, and every stroke a bucket full. Like, holy crap.
I think that's I'm pretty sure those are the latest lyrics to Cardi B's new single.
I thought those were pretty explicit for a movie from the 70s. Like, that's some hardcore stuff right there.
But it's sung over a scene with a fully naked woman, so I guess.
Yeah. Pretty interesting scene. Way more interesting than this entire movie is that one scene, which is available on Vimeo, so you should go watch it right now. If you haven't seen it, it is a trip, man. Nick has a dream where he watches that kid from the beginning get run over on the ferry again, which was great to have a flashback of that. Oh, yeah. That apparently pepped him up enough to pop some more pills and then go do some snooping. He chases after cartoon character dressed as Rowan again, who like never changes, always wearing that same red shirt, to a barn where he trespasses and destroys the floor of someone's private property. I mean, by the way, like, how shoddy is the construction of that barn? I mean, people had obviously just been in there judging by the apples and the potatoes that were fresh.
Yeah, there was a bunch of food stocked.
But, I mean, it's weak enough to where he can just fall immediately through an average weighted man. I don't know. That was strange to me. The next day, Nick chats with the non-naked dancing maid, who explains their crop was cursed last year. He spots some Harvest Festival pics on the wall that all feature girls about the same age as the missing girl, Rowan. One photo is missing because it got ruined the night before, presumably by Aunt Shirley and the two blind unison talking twins. By the way, the weather is gorgeous the entire time they're on this island. It's a island in the middle of the Puget Sound, and speaking from experience, I mean, you never go more than like 5 days without at least some fog or some mist or some rain.
Depends on where it is. The San Juans can get pretty gorgeous
They can get nice,
in the summer. If it was in like middle of summer, which kind of looked like it was, they can be pretty nice.
Yeah, like mid-July, August.
They do a whole lavender festival on one of the islands that I went to a few years ago, and lavender requires tons of sunlight to be stuff, so it can be nice.
The lavender
just
island
gotta hit it the right time of year.
next to the honey island.
Right.
Yeah, they work
Oh
together.
my gosh.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I liked about the movie is it did look pretty accurate to what those islands can look like. I'm assuming they filmed it up in Canada because it's cheap to film in Canada. And
the entire movie was shot in Canada. The Northern California scenes were, I think, in Alberta, which worked okay. I mean, it looks pretty similar to Northern California. And then this entire part, the Summers Isle part, was all filmed in and around Vancouver. And on some of the islands and stuff around there. So they did say in the commentary that they had remarkable weather throughout the whole thing. It was a 45-day shoot, and they only had rain on one of them. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
that's pretty
That
crazy.
is lucky.
It's one of the least believable parts of the film now to me. Like, why isn't it raining? What the hell? I mean, that would add to the creep factor, right?
Oh, God, how awesome would it be if a huge storm had started as they lit that fire and just extinguished the flame? They're like, well, what do we do now?
We got to rebuild that damn thing. Okay, Mr. Kim Coppola runs into a bunch of pregnant chicks in the forest, which I thought was an interesting ad.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads to a couple of quick facts that's kind of running through the entire movie is this whole island is kind of analogous to a bee colony. They kind of go through that throughout the whole thing. There's bee-related everything throughout the whole thing. Mrs. Summers Isle is kind of like the queen bee, and like we eventually will see her kind of her nest or her whatever you call it in a bee colony, and she's surrounded by like protective soldiers. She's got apparently that's actually true to an actual bee colony. Is there's 6 that surround them, the queen at all time, and there are 6 girls that surround her at all time. The men are subservient worker drones the entire time. And the women rule everything. So.
And they're all like constantly working. They're always constantly just doing stuff. If you watch their picking up sticks or carrying bundles of stuff around. Like bees are constantly working.
Yeah, I love that one scene where he comes in and talks to the guy. The guy goes, meh.
Yeah, it made me wonder, like, if like all the men had their tongues cut out
That's
or
what I
something. Like all of
wondered,
them can't talk.
I was wondering the same thing.
I think I pointed it out while I was doing the breakdown. Are they mute, or did they have their tongues cut out? Are they just, they're not even taught how to talk? In the schoolhouse scene, which we'll get to, she kind of says that the men don't really come to the school. They're just out in the fields learning how to work and stuff like that. So that makes sense with the whole bee thing. But if you watch, there's the color yellow is used throughout. The hexagon shape is everywhere. I thought that was kind of a fun fact, but seems a little heavy-handed, honestly, throughout the whole thing. He then runs into a schoolhouse full of children that look like Hitler's wet dream. Talking about how the only thing men are good for are their dicks. Phallic symbol. Phallic symbol. Which I thought they did a much better job of that in the original movie than this one. I feel like he just interrupts them immediately and doesn't overhear them talking about really messed up stuff. Like them saying phallic symbol is like really tame compared to how they were talking about men in the original one, but I'm guessing that's part of the PG-13 thing. Though in the unrated version, this scene is actually longer than in the theatrical version. I watched both versions. But it was mostly just him cursing at the kids and yelling at the school teacher.
I did take notes that his freak out in the school was like the first. It felt like the first freak out in the movie. Yeah. That's when he starts to finally lose it.
Yeah.
With just how fucking weird everything is.
The teacher drops some Don Quixote on him, and then he proceeds to be a huge asshole after that. He wipes off the chalkboard, yells at the teacher, calls the kids and the teacher liars, and then just really isn't thinking and lets somebody's pet crow out of its desk.
What was with the crow?
Apparently it was like a torture thing. In the original, it was like a beetle tied to a string, and then it was like tied to a little nail. And it was just like meant to show how cruel they were. But in this one, it's just a jump scare. I mean, they just kind of threw away that whole through line of them being...
It's like what? Yeah. I thought it was supposed to mean something like it's a symbol, but it's just a crow in a desk.
The teacher finally lets out that Rowan is dead. So somebody finally acknowledged her presence whatsoever, which in the original, it took a really long time to acknowledge that the same character named Rowan was gone, or that she was dead, and that they don't speak of death in their little hippie commune colony. So nobody would acknowledge that she was alive because they don't speak of death. And this one, they just creepily like smirk at him every time he says anything about Rowan, which is way less effective in my mind and makes way less sense. She also says that everyone is mourning her death, but then she says she'll burn to death, as in the future, at the very end. And he thinks he misheard her or something, but... Yeah,
she's like, he's like, what? And she's like, oh, I meant to say what I meant to say or whatever. I said exactly what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Like, what? So I think they're stringing him along, trying to make him believe that they want him to think that she's dead, but she's not actually dead. They're just saying that to, cover up the fact that she's still alive and he needs to look for
her. Nick stumbles upon a fresh grave that is near a destroyed church that Willow explains isn't her daughter's, and then he finds a crypt with a brand new lock on it. That church, I found out in the commentary, was actually all just made for the scene, and it's all styrofoam, which I thought was pretty damn well done for what it is. Yeah. Willow drops the bomb that Rowan is in fact Nick Cage's daughter. Bum, bum, bum. And leads him to a room that the chick from Fixer Upper would lose her shit over. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. But she loves that shiplap, and that whole room is shiplap. Cage finds some nightmare graffiti under Rowan's desk, which I thought was interesting. It was kind of like something out of The Ring. Which I don't really get what that was for. Like, because Rowan knew, spoilers, that she wasn't going to die at any point. So why is she all creeped out? Or is this something that Willow drew under the desk?
That's what I think. Like, once it's revealed that this was all a setup, it seems like any of these setup things were just done by the adults trying to make him think Rowan did it.
Yeah.
To keep stringing him along.
He then hears the plane from earlier landing in the harbor. When he gets there, the pilot is nowhere to be found, so Nick waits for him long enough to have another psychotic break where he sees Rowan dead under the dock and then dead in his arms in the
It was a double fake
the
out.
ever so rare double dream fake out.
Inception.
In the dream, he dives under the dock to rescue her, and I just kept hoping for a semi-truck to hit her under the water. That would have been so hilarious. But no such luck. He swims to the plane after giving up on Mr. I'll do anything for $100 and finds that the plane's radio has been destroyed, which is similar to the original. The police officer from the first one, he flew in on his own plane and landed, and then when he tried to leave, they had ripped out the controls and stuff, so he couldn't leave.
The way they shot that scene was very weird to me. Like, it was almost like an afterthought. Like, I didn't even notice at first that the radio was smashed up. I had to rewind it and go look, because it's like it's not centered on the frame; it's off on the right, and he's sort of messing with it, and he just kind of just goes,
Yeah.
Like, his reaction to it is not anything.
Yeah.
He picks up the little like speaker part and then drops it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work, and he just puts it down. And it's like, if you don't even notice that the paneling is smashed, I don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't acknowledge the fact that it's been destroyed. He's like, oh, it's just not working.
Yeah, that's what it seems. That's his reaction was like, oh man, it won't turn on.
Yeah. Like, oh, that pilot must have accidentally bumped his elbow and destroyed his CB. That was weird, yeah.
Usually in movies they'll do like a close-up, they'll show the smashed machinery so that you really get it, and it was weird that they didn't have a cut like that.
Yeah.
I
feel like one of the better parts of the movie was the editing, but yeah, there were a lot of little edits that didn't make sense. Like there's towards the end when he rides his bike to Willow's house, and then he goes in, and then he comes back, and then there's a cut with like a jump scare type sting on a bush. And like the first two times I was like, what in the hell are they trying to tell us? And it was the bike is missing. Yeah. That's what they were trying to tell us. I didn't get that till the third watch, which is not a good thing.
I didn't even get it until you said it.
Yeah.
Because I thought the same thing. I was like, what were we supposed to be seeing? There was nothing there.
Yeah. Next, he barges in on the town doctor/photographer. /geneticist or something. Yeah. She had a whole lab. He asks her a couple of questions and then breaks into her house when she leaves with some beekeepers who look like the love children of Jawas and sand people.
Houdini.
I thought I was interested because like the first time you see it, you're like, what in the hell is this? It was so confusing.
Have you guys ever seen Phantasm? The 1970s fan. They reminded me of the little like Jawa dwarf things that attack them in Phantasm, because you never see their face, so they're just like hooded and I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah. Like I said, just a series of dick moves that totally justify his death.
Breaking and entering.
Just broke into somebody's house, and then in the doctographer's house, he finds some exposition on the desk that explains that they burn people as a sacrifice for the harvest every year, and then stumbles upon a room full of dead babies in jars.
I thought this was going to kick off like a cloning subplot or something. Like,
I thought it was
because earlier when he runs into he talks to the school lady, and then like the next scene he runs into her again and is like, "Didn't I just talk to you?" And the lady was like, "No, you didn't." And now we know it's a twin, but I thought there was going to be some weird cloning stuff going on, which is also very bee-like, because bees are all clones because they're all the same. The one mother breeds with the drone and then just has a million kids that are all copies of each other. So I thought there was something like that going on, or like a Dr. Island or Island of Dr. Moreau thing where they're doing weird genetic experiments on. Because I just didn't really understand what the point of all of these weird mutants in jars was supposed to be.
I kept expecting it to come back, but it never really came back. But it did lead me to some good dead baby jokes. How many dead babies does it take to paint a wall? Depends on how hard you throw them.
Oh my God.
How do you make a dead baby float? A can of root beer, 2 scoops of ice cream, and 1 dead baby. Anyways, after doing some snooping, he finds that the missing harvest photo, or he finds the missing harvest photo, and it is, of course, Rowan, which was telegraphed from the very beginning, with a caption that says it was the worst harvest on record. He confronts Willow with the picture, and she makes out with him, and then apparently gives him a bike. He goes biking around the island, and for some reason, Nick Cage on a bike is absolutely hilarious to me. Like, he seems so uncomfortable the whole time he's riding that bike. Every scene that you see him, he's so funny.
He's also still in the dirty suit that he's been wearing, running around the island. So it's just it's a guy in a business suit riding a bike around a forest. It's so out of place.
That made me laugh so hard every time I saw him on that stupid.
It looked like he was about to fall at one point.
Yeah.
I wonder how many times they had to cut because they had to cut out him falling over.
Yeah, he's so unbalanced.
He stumbles upon some mute men or men without tongues or whatever. Some Jawa sand people. Some guys carrying a suspicious bundle of wicker, a huge bundle of wicker, both on their backs for some odd reason. And then finally into a field full of bees where he manages to make sure next crop will be even worse by knocking over every damn hive as he stumbles through crazily.
Something about the bike that I wanted to point out that I thought was hilarious is when he comes across those guys that are hauling the wood, the big thing of wood, he gets off the bike and he just drops it. He doesn't try to lean it up against a tree or use a kickstand. He just gets off the bike and lets it go, and it just falls off into a ditch. And then he starts trying to help the guy.
Yeah, Willow could just run to Target and get a new bike. Be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
She's not going to need this bike on this island where they can't get anything new ever.
Right. Again, he's a dick. He just doesn't care about her property.
The whole time. Totally justified death.
He's a dumb dick because when he goes into this beehive thing, he's allergic to bees. Why does he wander into the bee field?
Well, I mean, he kind of is looking down or something and then just runs the bike right into the first beehive.
But then he keeps going deeper. Like you would think your instinct is to run away from them. Instead, he runs into the beehive colony.
I thought the little hexagons in the beehive area were kind of a nice little added touch. Again, it felt a little heavy-handed, but it was kind of cool. I appreciate that little addition, which was totally not necessary. He gets
It's a cool visual.
Yeah. He gets stung 1,000 times, but is somehow fine thanks to being treated in the old way by the town photographer doctor. It's never explained what the old way is.
He just has a couple of bumps.
He's just fine. He's got these little bumps. Yeah.
Yeah. He talks about he's deathly allergic. He has EpiPens on him so that he doesn't go into anaphylactic shock.
Yeah.
But I don't know how bee allergies work, but I assume getting stung by multiple hives worth of bees would just kill you.
You would think.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Within minutes.
I thought that was a weird thing. Why? I don't know. There's a lot of little questions like that, throughout, that we'll get to. Turns out he wakes up in the house of the legendary Mrs. Summersisle that everybody's been talking about the entire movie, who seems kind of bummed that he didn't die from the bee stings. She says, pity, I felt like Christopher Lee, who played Mr. Summersisle, or Lord Summerisle in the original movie, he was I don't know, he kind of commanded his scenes, and he really, Christopher Lee, of course, is Christopher Lee. He's an amazing actor who, the whole time you're kind of wondering what his motivations are and all that kind of stuff. But with Ellen Burstyn, they just kind of made her just creepy for the sake of being creepy the whole time. Didn't kind of make him, make you see why everybody follows this person. She's just kind of I don't know. She's commanding. She definitely has a presence, but at the same time, it's I don't know. It's not the same as Lord Summerisle. She explains that the great mother goddess rules the island through her. So she runs the island, but is controlled by great mother goddess, which I guess, goes back to the pagan thing, which I watched Midsummer also in preparation of this whole thing. And that kind of lends itself to that sort of pagan idolatry. But they never explain that. They never kind of go into the mythology that they're actually practicing or anything like that. They sort of like explain that they came over and landed in Salem and like made a connection to the Salem witch trials, and then
they got tried as witches, and so they fled.
Yeah,
they just kept going west until they eventually ended up as furthest west as you could possibly go without going to Hawaii.
She says that they practice selective breeding, and that the men are subservient to the women, and then he yells in her face and calls her a wacko. You wackos. And then she gets really offended by that, calling him, like, saying that I'm sorry that our island isn't normal. That's they lead more into that kind of queen bee thing there with, like, you see her servants around her. Yeah. And then the beekeepers are all women, which apparently most of them were actually men in the filming of it because the suits fit them better. But then they padded them out to make them look like women. That was a funny Coppola quick fact. Nick uncomfortably rides away on his bike like he just got the training wheels taken off. It's just ridiculous. He digs up Rowan's grave only to find a burnt doll inside the coffin. In the original, they find a rabbit inside, which lends more to the pagan stuff, I think. Like, the original movie did a good job with the pagan stuff, but they have that little, like, Stonehenge, and they're dancing over fire naked, and, that stuff all made a lot more sense for the pagan stuff than this whole bee commune thing, colony. He then dives into the crypt because he thinks that he hears her crying inside, which makes no sense because he just found the burnt doll, which lends itself to the idea that, like, there was nothing left to bury because she was burned at the stake, but her doll survived, so they buried her doll. But then he hears her crying 3 seconds later, and it's like, oh, she must be alive. Yeah. And then dives into this
another hallucination.
Yeah, dives into this freezing cold water that's probably littered with dead bodies because it's inside of an ancient crypt.
It's a crypt, flooded crypt.
Yeah. And then he gets locked inside by a beekeeper sand Jawa for some reason. That's never explained. It's never explained. Like, why would they lock him in there?
Why they don't want him to die yet.
Why
they
do
don't
they keep
kill him.
sort of trying to kill him if he has to be alive for the sacrifice? Is that just to fuck with him and torture him? And, like, I don't. That didn't make any sense at all either.
Maybe they just wanted to lock him somewhere because he's been causing trouble, and they don't want him to.
Yeah, maybe
figure it out too early or something. I don't know. It's convenient for the plot. Maybe they read the script. Maybe they knew maybe they knew he couldn't figure it out yet. They had to keep him somewhere overnight because it had to be the third day.
Act 3. It's about time to wrap this thing up.
Willow finds him the next morning after being trapped in freezing cold Pacific Northwest water all night long. But he manages to get over his hypothermia in about 15 seconds before scrambling out of the pit.
And the sun is fully up.
Yeah.
Like so he's been
in there
He's
all
been there
night
for
long.
hours and hours.
Yeah. I mean, presumably, like, when he first went in there, that was, like, right after he confronted Summer's Isle. And that was light out. So, I mean, even in the middle of summer, he's probably been at least, like, 12 or 15 hours
in the water.
Yeah.
And he falls asleep just, like, holding on to the grate.
Yeah.
As he doesn't let go and fall in the water and drown.
So he runs out of the pit. He grabs the doll and then crazily yells, "How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?" to Willow. Like the director even said in the commentary, is like, "I wasn't expecting him to do that. That seems a little over the top." But at the same time, good. I guess she would have known that her daughter was burned, and he's looking at her like she knows what the actual fate was. It's
appropriate. I thought it was an appropriate response.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Also, somebody just locked him in a dungeon full of water for 12 hours, so he was a little on edge. He's starting to lose it.
Next, we see a completely dry, aside from his hair, Nick Cage head to Summer's Isle's house, and upon walking in, he finds some pretty dope amenities to the house, such as a naked dude in a bed with one eye and a lot of pimples.
I think they were bee stings, but I don't know.
You think they're? Oh, that's
I thought they were
interesting.
supposed to be bee stings, but I don't know what the point of that is. This whole section felt very Shining to me.
Yeah.
Like he's opening doors and seeing weird shit in different rooms as he's wandering through the creepy house. It just seemed like a total Shining homage.
Yeah, I get that. We'll call him Pimply Joe since we're gonna be referring to him a lot. Oh wait, no, he never comes back again. We never talk about that ever again. Okay, all right. Now, next though, we see a room dedicated to being naked and covered with bees for some reason. This is actually super important, so we'll call that bee room. Oh no, that never comes up again either. We never talk about that ever. And then an elevated room where Mrs. Summersisle sits in a comically oversized bed, surrounded by handmaidens who apparently just sit there and stare at the door all day long. Like they're all just staring at the door. Like there's no
But she never
there's not
comes
a
through.
TV or anything in there. I mean, she owns their own island. They can't spring for like some magazines or Netflix or something. I don't know. Cage runs into that crazy teacher from earlier, wearing a crow mask, who again throws shade at him by quoting Don Quixote.
It's probably the only book she's ever read. So
Yeah, I thought it was like
make with the quixotic references.
I get it. I get that, like, you know, that's just kind of her character thread in the movie, but like, it's just weird. Like every time she sees him, she drops Don Quixote on him, like 4 different times. Nick rides away comically in a manner that screams, I haven't ridden a bike in decades, so I'm not going to brush up on it for some stupid horror movie. I just love he's like shaking around. It's just hilarious.
It's an old-timey bike, too. Like, the bike looks like it's from, like, the 1920s. He's just...
It doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to ride. I don't know.
Yeah, it just might as well be a penny farthing. In those scenes, I was super distracted by the fact that he's on roads that, you know, obviously have tire tracks going up and down them, and he's supposed to be on an island that has no vehicles or anything.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a dumb
like
thing. I know
and stuff, but
I know that they couldn't get away with, you know, they're filming in actual locations. They were probably just like some neighborhoods out in rich people areas out in the San Juan Islands. So.
In the original one, there's actually a scene where he's running into town, or he's running to the celebration or something like that, and you see a truck on that island. It's an island that's in the middle of nowhere. So I didn't feel like that was unbelievable. I thought it was like they had obviously had a shipment, you know, brought to it. It was an old truck, so obviously it had been there for a long time. So that doesn't bother me too much. Like I could see them having
It's just something
trucks
that
and
it kept pulling me out when I saw it. It was funny though.
Yeah.
Much like that diatribe pulled us out of this what we were doing.
Yeah.
Ruined any flow.
He then continues his dick moves of busting into people's houses, harassing them, knocking masks off of little kids, kicking down doors, all of that jazz. Like he like says, I've got all the fucking authority I need to like some little kids, and like even the directors were like, we felt like maybe that was a bit much.
Yeah, that's the one F-bomb.
Yeah.
In the unrated or in the theatrical version, he's screaming at little kids.
By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like every kid that appears on the island seems to be like right around the same age. They're all like Rowan's age, like 10 or whatever. So I kind of wonder if that's like they only impregnate people at the time of the burning of the Wicker Man. Like they only have children during that time.
Every 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of an unanswered question. Next, he finds the pilot from the beginning dead on the beach with his mouth and eyes sewn shut and his hands cut off. But he still gives him a couple good shakes to see if he's awake. See if he just needed a quick trip to the photographer doctor.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I liked that dummy shot where he's like shaking the dummy, but like they don't linger on it for too long. I know it's because it was like it was a PG-13. They don't want to show like a bloody corpse for too long, but also it was a super fake looking dummy, so I'm sure they didn't want to leave the camera on it for too long.
I thought it was pretty brutal when you see like the arm bones sticking out above. Like that was pretty hardcore for PG-13. You know, they could have cut around that for the PG-13 cut, but they left it in. But he also spots the plane wing sticking out of the cove that they landed in earlier, which I have all sorts of questions about, which we'll get to in a Coppola Questions later on. But this is where things get really good. Our hero makes his way to the bar where he overhears young Aunt Shirley if she dealt with the situation in the harbor. Nick's response is to walk super slowly towards her and punch her directly in the face, which was amazing. The townsfolk all meet in the middle of town and start dancing around like nutcases while Nick beats the shit out of the not naked dancing waitress girl before he dresses up as a bear, as you do.
That part has my favorite Cage moment when he just goes, God! And just kicks the shit out of her.
I love it. He just like socks her right in the face and then kicks her like ninja style right
just
into
the way he
the
says,
pictures.
Just the way he says, God! It's just so good.
There's also that great like, God damn it, from the second dream fake out thing.
Yeah.
That was really good too. The guy who's the barkeep or whatever in the original one, his costume for the festival was like a jester that actually tied directly into the festivities where they pretend to chop somebody's head off or will eventually chop somebody's head off. I don't know if you guys remember that from the original one. But anyways, the bear thing is a little bit more revealing. Like you can see his face a lot easier in that one. So I feel like people would have immediately seen the size difference between him and the bar lady, and also you can kind of make out that it's a man underneath, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys caught this, but in one shot he's kind of in blackface, and then the next shot he has a screen over his face.
Oh yeah,
No, I didn't see the blackface part. I thought he just had the screen over
He
it.
had the screen over his face in one shot, and and he's talking to Willow and stuff, but earlier if you look, it kind of looks like his face is actually painted. Which I'm guessing was, they're like, oh, nobody's ever going to watch this in 4K high def.
Right.
He joins the townfolk who are dancing across the island in animal costumes before stopping in a field in front of a very much alive Rowan. Finally, we see her, who is tied to a post, seemingly on the verge of being sacrificed. So he does the only logical thing and runs directly up to the person guarding her and punches her in the face while dressed as a bear. Which is a great visual of him like running up and just
socks her.
He runs away with Rowan into the forest. The town folk give chase and they hide behind a tree like they're in a Scooby-Doo episode. They just kind of like go off to the side and hide behind a tree for a second. Rowan runs in front of him, and apparently this trained police officer can't keep up with this little kid, which is actually one of the more believable parts of the whole movie. Pretty accurate, I think.
Yeah.
She leads him into a field where all the town folk are waiting. This is where shit gets real. Turns out Willow and Rowan were in on it the whole time, from the very beginning. And then the whole town starts giving exposition, taking turns giving exposition, and explain that the sacrifice has to be someone of blood relation to the commune. And it turns out Willow is Mrs. Summersisle's daughter. The whole time. It's been Mrs. Summersisle's daughter. Also, it turns out that the woman and kid who were struck head on by the semi that blew up and was on fire are also alive and just fine and dandy. And the hollow-eyed skeleton cop is also there. Which I have a lot of questions about. So she's been a part of this cult from the very beginning, which, okay, we'll talk about that. But next they rush him, and this is actually only in the unrated cut, so maybe you guys didn't see this, but they rush him. Cage manages to punch a few more women just for good measure before the townfolk break his legs, which he takes surprisingly well. Like he's still talking through it and everything. Like he's kind of like in pain, wincing, but like they just smashed his legs at the knee, both legs. Then they put a cage. Put a cage around his head and fill it with a load of CGI bees, which sting him in the face a bunch or something. And like he's got his mouth open the entire time while there's bees all around his face.
Doesn't he even say, they're in my mouth? They're in my mouth or something. Doesn't he say something like that? I think he says, oh, they're in my eyes. They're in my eyes. It's almost like the director's like, okay, now they're in your eyes. And he just goes, oh, they're in my eyes.
I think that line was straight from his head. No direction given. And I advise, if you have never seen that scene, please go find it on YouTube. It is magic.
Finally, they pop him into the Wicker Man, which is filled with various animals that will also be sacrificed. That was also in the original one, which, the reveal of the Wicker Man in the first one was so unexpected. If you didn't know the name of the movie and you hadn't seen anything about it, you would not have expected that. It was so just like, whoa, what the fuck? And the whole movie talks about burning at the stake, not burning in some crazy built wood person, full of animals and stuff, which I think is such a cool added thing to that. Is they're not just sacrificing man, they're sacrificing animals to really give an offering to the gods or the mother goddess, whatever. His lovely daughter that he just met tosses a torch at the base. And then the town chants, the drone must die, which I think is their version of Kumbaya,
They brought them all together and they...
This leads to the honey harvest being saved, presumably, at least until they enact their next overcomplicated and elaborate ruse to lure some schmuck to this island. In the actual theatrical version, in the unrated version, the extra scene doesn't exist. It's not there. It just cuts to the credits. But in the theatrical version, we see 6 months later, James Franco and Jason Ritter are hanging out in a bar, which sounds much more like the setup for a joke than a scene that needed to be in this movie.
Yeah.
But these two douchey dudes spot Willow and the maid, who still refuses to dance naked. They spot them in the bar, and then they make their move over to hit on them. These two gorgeous, lovely ladies immediately succumb to the charms of these two random college dudes trolling for strange. And thus begins the next insanely overcomplicated ploy to lure these two doofuses to Summer's Isle, which is somehow still doing this despite there being an insane amount of evidence that connects the inhabitants of the island to Nick Cage's death, and will inevitably lead to The Wicker Man 2, starring James Franco bumbling around this island looking for his bastard love child while punching tons of women in the face. The end.
It seems like they specifically target cops too, because he mentions that he's in the police. He's in the police academy or whatever. So it's so they have a cop who, like you said, told everybody where he's going, gave them evidence of where he was going to be, how long he needed to be.
I didn't even notice that.
And then at the end, they target him specifically, James Franco, because he's studying to be a cop.
Gotcha.
Because presumably because cops are the kinds of guys that would go investigate the island, and they need to kill them.
So it's going to be the exact same ruse the second time around.
Right. And it seems like that's just all they do. Every 10 years or so, they lure the father of a girl who they trick into thinking they're killing so that he shows up, and then they actually kill him because the drone must die.
What's weird is talking through the movie with the two of you actually is making the movie better in some ways. Because you're
We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
So the car with the doll tossing bitch from the opening was struck head-on by a semi, burst into flames, and then blew up with the passengers visibly inside, but they're safe and sound and in tip-top shape from the Reichstag parade.
I didn't even catch that they were there at the maypole thing at the end, or at the Wicker Man at the end. I didn't realize they were still there.
Yeah, it was the two of them with the cop.
I didn't catch that the cop was there either.
And it's like
that's even more confusing.
Later. It's like this. Presumably that happened. He popped some pills and took some time off and watched cowboy movies, as you do. And then when he got that letter, he decided to go almost immediately to do that. So this was probably within a month of that event, and they're just fine. They weren't burnt, they weren't hurt in any way, even though they were struck by a semi. Which I did watch in the third viewing of the movie. The semi kind of hits over on the corner of the car, so it doesn't like strike head on. But that leads me to my second question. If this was planned all along from the very beginning, they must have known or paid the semi driver to swerve into the car,
to
right?
hit the car.
And where the hell did he go?
Sense.
Where the hell did he go?
And Cage doesn't even try to, they don't try to stop it. He went off the road and like the semi flipped over and stuff, so he's injured as well.
There's no they didn't do any kind of investigation. I mean, they did say that like we never found the bodies of those two people later on, but like the driver of the semi.
That's what I thought. The implication there was that he just hallucinated it. Like he found a broken down car on the side of the road and imagined the whole thing for some reason.
Yeah, that seems.
He's been imagining things throughout the whole movie,
I guess, but I don't know.
And they were like,
sense.
like he was, he hallucinated. He picked up a doll that somebody had thrown, and then saw an abandoned car and made this whole thing up. And then that's why there was no bodies or anything. But the fact that they're on the island with the cop makes even less sense than that. Because why would they, if they're going to lure him to the island, why would they even set up this elaborate thing with crashing a semi into a car anyway? They could have just given him the letter and say, look, I got this letter from your ex-fiance. And he would have gone to the island anyway. They had to like create some guilt or something, but he didn't need it.
Maybe to set up that like a kid had died and now he feels bad about the kid dying.
Maybe.
Yeah, but he seems like the kind of person who would have gone regardless because his ex-fiance is saying her kid's missing and she needs his help.
So it was a complete waste of time whatsoever.
And a potential disaster for the woman and the child who could have actually been killed.
Yeah.
Setting up this pointless ruse.
Yeah.
On top of that, like he starts punching the back window. This is my question when that goes along with it. Why would you punch the back window? He's like punching it
uses his helmet.
Yeah, then he uses the helmet. And then that also goes into my next question is, how did he not get burned when the car explodes in his face?
And why did he just
backwards?
open one of the doors instead of breaking out?
Because they only got hit, like the right side was crumpled. He could have, or the left side, he could have gone around to the other side and opened it up. And, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess they were insinuating that both sides of the car were on fire.
Oh, yeah, maybe. It did explode because it throws him.
Yeah,
it doesn't knock him flying.
He doesn't get burned or anything like that. He's totally fine.
Yeah, when he's
not mentally, but physically.
When he's busting out the window and stuff, like it hadn't blown up yet. It was just burning from apparently underneath.
Yeah, because that's how cars burn.
It's just a weird inciting incident for the whole movie when it really is kind of pointless and makes no sense in the overall story.
Next, what was with the creepy phone call that served absolutely no purpose other than
I forgot about the phone call.
I mean,
what was in the call? He gets like says something and then he gets cut off.
I didn't hear anything, but in the commentary they said that there was like the sound of bees and like whispering or something. I don't like.
Is that what it was?
Like it didn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like, was that to insinuate that someone has been watching him while he's browsing the internet, like after he looks at the envelope and stuff? Also,
maybe
if the people of the Summers Isle live in an Amish like lifestyle with no phones and all that kind of stuff, how do they have a fully functional website? Like, did they just hire an outside developer or something?
Well, I'm assuming they export their bees.
Sponsors.
Maybe they export their honey and sell it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This was their way of like selling their stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That one was weird to me. Okay,
speaking of phone calls, when you missed a moment when he's running with Rowan through the woods, his phone rings. His cell phone finally.
That's right.
And it's his partner or whatever, and he just answers it. And he's like, "Pete, help us, help us, help us!" And then the phone goes dead, and that's it. There's no other point for that to happen.
That's another like. Okay, so somebody is looking for him now, right? Mm-hmm. And they know where he is. So they're going to find out what happened to him. Like,
It's like he's tried to make calls earlier in the movie and the phone's dead because it's a horror movie, or he can't get its signal because it's mid 2000s San Juan Islands when it's flip phone, so there's no reception out there.
It felt just totally unnecessary. Like why?
Yeah, like why is there a 30-second part where he gets a phone call from his cop partner and then nothing happens and he hangs up?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just to give you that little glimmer of hope, like he's going to be saved.
That's what I was thinking. Is like, okay, so somebody's on the way and they're going to stop. They're going to stop this before he burns. I thought maybe that was the idea there, but apparently not.
Presumably they hear him saying, "Help us, help, send help," or whatever. So now they're definitely like, okay, he disappeared under super mysterious circumstances on this island, and the cops are going to investigate.
That leads me to my next question. So they kill the pilot, leave his body on the beach, and sink his plane in their own harbor. Wouldn't it be slightly obvious what happened to him?
You can even see like the tail of the plane sticking out of the water with the plane's like identifier on it.
I mean, anybody who came looking for him. I mean, this dude makes deliveries to this island on almost a daily basis, it seems like, and yet they there's his plane. It's in the how are they going to get that out of there if they actually
planes
wanted to get
they're
out
tracked
of
by radar, right?
Yeah.
They track planes by radar, right? So they would have had a record of him landing there and never taking off again.
Right. Well, he's also going to file what do they call a manifest of where he's going. So
flight
they know
plans and
that
stuff.
Yeah, they know that's where he's going. It's like, hey, have you guys seen Pilot Pete? No, that's his plane out there in your harbor. Oh,
I heard
that
someone
wasn't there
gave
last
him
night.
a whole $100 to fly somewhere the other day.
He bounced. He's in Mexico.
So why not just lock up Nick Cage when he first arrived instead of playing all these games with him? Like they do say that it was a game the whole time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But like
there's something about he has to come of his own free will.
Yeah.
So maybe he has to continue investigating of his own free will. Like he can't be an unwilling prisoner the whole time. Maybe I'm just spitballing because the movie doesn't tell us. But maybe that's why. Like maybe they have to give him the opportunity to leave if he wants. At any point because they do never lock him up and they let him wander around. They let him look at whoever, talk to whoever. He can go wherever he wants. He can ride the bike on whatever path he wants. They don't try to stop him. Until they randomly lock him in the crypt.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense.
They did sort of do the same thing in the original one where like he did have opportunities to leave and they did tell him like you should probably leave. But then they tested him a bunch of times to see if like was he gonna succumb to the charms of this beautiful woman who's naked dancing next to him and like singing a song about milking him and all that kind of stuff. But he's in the original. It made sense because he was a hardcore Christian the whole time, and he was very upset about all the pagan stuff throughout the whole movie. And it had to be somebody who was a virgin that they sacrificed. And so he was a virgin by choice because he was waiting. He was engaged, which they showed a few times. And he was saving himself for marriage, which he was just about to get married, which I don't know if I buy the fact that this almost like 40-year-old dude was a virgin throughout his whole life, but that was a different time. Things were different back then. And it was England, The old C of E was a lot more strict, the Catholic Church back over there.
The C of E.
C of E, as they called it in Clockwork Orange.
Church of England.
Church of England. Why did they sting him in the face before sacrificing him?
Maybe the
What the
bees
hell
had
was the point of that?
Because what if he died? Because again, he's deathly allergic to bees, and they just
then the
dumped like
sacrifice is
200 bees all over him.
Yeah, it's all
And then he
null
would have
and
been
void.
dead.
What I
Maybe
thought
they
was,
had the EpiPen ready, and they gave him a shot before they threw him in there.
what I thought was funny
I thought that
is,
had to do with like it's bees is their whole thing. It's their fertility goddess and bee goddess or whatever. So they had to offer a sacrifice to the bees, maybe, and I don't know.
maybe, but they're killing the bees by letting them sting him.
Yeah, true.
Oh, in the theatrical version, you can see that his face is all stung up, but it's not explained in the movie. If you just watch that version, you're kind of like, what the hell did they do to his face?
I don't think because they play the audio of them breaking his legs so that you know his legs are broken. I don't know if they also. I don't think they play the audio of them dumping the bees all over him.
No.
Or stinging or whatever like that. So you just hear him go, "Oh no, my legs! You broke my legs!" And you hear him snapping his legs or whatever.
My legs.
So you know he can't just run away. But yeah, he's just got bee stings all over him for no. And also the way that they reveal the Wicker Man just seems very it's weird because he's like, oh my God, oh my God. And it's like, it's the first time that there's no reference to the Wicker Man at all. Like you said, in the original movie, it's just a reveal.
Yeah.
It's like that in this movie, but it's almost like they're counting on the audience to know what the Wicker Man means because you've seen the original one. But if you don't, you're still just like, why is he so freaked out about a big giant Burning Man thing? I mean, I guess the implication is there. I just thought it was a weird reveal of it where he just sort of sees it. He's like, oh my God.
Maybe
oh my God.
Edward Malus had seen the original Wicker Man movie, so he knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
They're ripping off that movie.
Maybe he's been investigating. He's been investigating the missing cop for 30 years. He knew
It's
about
just
the
like
Wicker
that
Man.
case.
Is his name Edward Malus in the original one?
No, it's they used the Edward from the name of the guy who played the original person. I forget the name of the actual character, but the original guy was named Edward Woodward. So they used Edward for his first name and Woodward for Willow's last name.
Yeah,
And then they
because
kept
Malus the way they say it or the way they spell it is Malus, which means evil in Latin.
Yeah,
So
they
I don't
said
know if
something
that was
about
where
it actually had something to do with bees too. I forget exactly what that connection was, but there throughout the whole movie, you know, everybody has like a plant name or something related to nature and stuff throughout the whole thing. One of my biggest questions throughout this whole thing, after seeing the reveal at the very end, is so the cop lady moved to Nicolas Cage's town, took a job as a police officer somehow, and then like baited him along for years just to kind of help get him to the island, sort of. Like,
yeah.
What?
Maybe the implication is that once they've targeted somebody,
they put somebody like a plant.
They send feelers out to follow them and make sure that they, you know, go to the police academy and become a cop and become a partner of a guy in like 10 years or however long it takes for the cycle to continue.
Insane.
Yeah.
And wouldn't they put together, I mean, I guess, you know, they are cops, so they're a missing person all the time, but wouldn't they put together that this lady cop like kept showing up at places where police officers were going missing?
Yeah.
Like every 10 years.
I also wonder like why they didn't, like he's obviously got a missing persons case. Why is it him that just decides to leave and go to a different state to go look for for himself? Yeah. Instead, he could have reported it to like the Washington police and they would have done the investigation.
Yeah, I mean,
it's their jurisdiction.
Let's sit down with a detective and be like, "Here's what seems to be going on. Do you want to help me on this investigation?" No, he just goes by himself.
Right.
Why wouldn't any of the other men on the island have worked for the sacrifice? I mean, everybody there is related by blood. Even like Pimply Joe could have worked for the Wicker Man and saved a ton of effort and resources. Why did they have to create this crazy elaborate ruse to get him there specifically?
I don't know. Maybe it's because it has to be an outsider who comes of their own volition to do it. They can't use their own people for it. That's what I would think. Like they need to. It's not as effective of a sacrifice if you're taking somebody who is within that system, maybe, and knows all about it. I don't know. You got to take somebody who's from the outside but doesn't learn what it's about because they wouldn't want to do it. Yeah. So until you know, I don't know.
In the original, it didn't really have anything to do with the fact that he was from the outside. It was more like, this is a godsend. We have a virgin that isn't one of our people, so we can sacrifice this guy instead of sacrificing Rowan, which they were planning on sacrificing. I think that's not fully explained in there, but like in that movie, they also say the same thing. Like, you have come here of your own free will. Like he follows Rowan up to the spot where the Wicker Man is, and they say that they surround him. And my final question, I'm sure you guys have some questions too, but if they've been planning to sacrifice this guy for at least 5 years, because Rowan is at least like 5 to 10 years old, right? But their harvest just went shitty the previous year. Like, is that just insurance? Like they just plan this every few years just to make sure that the harvest is going to be good? Or like, because it seems like it was the plan was to sacrifice this guy because the harvest went bad, but it had only gone bad 1 year before. But they've had that cop lady working with him for all that time, and like Rowan is, you know, Yeah.
I get the sense that because they have so many pictures, that this is a common thing that they do, and they just keep doing it so that they don't have a failure of a harvest. So, like, I originally I thought I got the impression that they do actually sacrifice the girl every year or whatnot, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's every 10 years or whatever. They bring her father in and sacrifice him the same way they do this, and that's the cycle they do it. They just put up this story of the girls being the sacrifice to trick the men they're bringing in.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just the year prior. Yeah, there was a bad harvest, but they were just like, that's bound to happen, I guess. We're still doing the sacrifice.
Yeah. Eventually, this is all going to blow up in their face, you would assume. Like, if everybody's as incompetent as Nick Cage and all of his friends in this movie, then I guess, but...
My main one I had was what was in the fucking bag.
Yeah,
we talked about it at the beginning. It was just like, well, I didn't want to get too into it because that was my main thing. Like, what to go back to it? Like, there's obviously something bleeding and moving around in the bag. He calls it out. They make fun of him for it and tell him to take a look. I don't think he even gets to see it. He reaches for it and it jumps at him, and he gets spooked and they laugh at him and then he just walks off.
They never explain it. They never like what the hell was actually supposed to be in that bag? Was it a person?
Yeah.
Was it a child?
Is it an animal? Like, why does he not care more? Why does he just go, oh, geez. Oh,
yeah, why
whatever.
does he just kind of like let them just leave with a dead creature without looking to see what the hell it was? I don't know. It's weird.
I thought it was going to come back around and there was going to be, they do have the bag, they put him in a bag, right? Or something toward the end. They put him in the same type of bag. Yeah. So it's like, was this some failed sacrifice they were taking down to dump into the water or something? Or were they just showing it to him to tease him? Like, it's kind of it's like almost foreshadowing, except it doesn't actually foreshadow anything.
Yeah.
It's just like...
It doesn't explain it never gets explained in the slightest.
But for me, it was just like, I can get with it just being a weird thing, but I just don't understand from a character perspective why he just brushes it off and doesn't bother investigating it any further. Because he's right there asking what it is. Just makes him jump. And then he's like, okay, well, I guess it's nothing. Move on. Go along about your day.
Yeah, he's pretty dismissive about it. And it's like just dripping blood, too. So you're here investigating a missing child. Yeah. You think you'd be a little more concerned about what is in this.
Take a minute to like try
a child-sized bag of you got a twitching, bleeding child-sized form in a bag right there.
Oh, it's just a little person. Carry on. Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe it was actually a shark, and he's just scared of sharks. And he's like, get that away from me.
What's in the bag? A shark or something?
It's time to keep track. Here are the final stats.
I had an idea of like, let's keep track of how many times Nick Cage curses every time he kills somebody and every time he dies throughout all of the movies that we're going to watch, because we're going to watch every single movie he's ever made. And I think it would be really interesting to be like 20, 30 movies into this and be like, Nick Cage is now cursed 9,000 times in his movies.
So for this movie, it was fairly tame. There was one F-bomb, which we talked about earlier. Yeah, it's PG-13 movie, so they use their one fuck that you're allowed. You're allowed one non-sexual use of the word fuck in a PG-13 movie, I believe. So he says hell a total of one time. And not just like talking about hell, but like saying like, what the hell? That's my criteria for it. If you're using hell, the proper noun, it doesn't count as a swear. He uses damn 3 times, but it's in the context of saying goddamn or goddammit, which I've made its own category. It's separate from damn. Because you could say like, oh, damn. Or you could say goddamn. They're two different things.
Goddamn is much more severe. That's for sure.
Yeah, so he says a variation of goddamn or goddammit 3 times throughout the movie. He has one use of bullshit. 2 uses of bitch or bitches, and I'm pretty sure it's bitches at the end when they're coming after him. Yeah, and he says something like, "I'll kill you, bitches," or something.
Several in the unrated version. There's a lot more cursing in the unrated version, but I didn't track it. I think we should go by the theatrical cuts of the movies.
Yeah.
He says God 6 times, as in like God or oh my God. Again, I counted that different from God damn it. So any instance of God damn it was its own instance, and then he'd saying God by itself was a total of 6 times. Again, one of them was the classic God, and then he kicks the chick in the face. That's it. And then we also said he says fuck once. So a total of 14 curses in this one. So pretty tame.
Yeah, pretty tame.
Yeah, a PG-13 movie, as you'd expect. I don't know how much you can actually swear in it. Is there a hard limit to how much you can swear in a PG-13 movie, even if they're minor swears, like saying shit or goddamn it?
I think so. I think there's I feel like I heard at one time there's 3 instances of the word shit that you can use. What about the kill tracker?
All right, so you feel free to disagree with me on this one, guys, but I put down 1 kill because I'm putting the death of that pilot on Nick Cage in this movie.
That's exactly what I wrote. Was he is technically responsible for killing that pilot.
And I didn't want to count all the animals, so I'm just gonna put animals down. But
he kills the bee. He kills the bee.
He kills the bee. So we'll go with 3 deaths right there. Or 3 kills, and then obviously he has the single death of himself, right? He burns in a very theatrical manner.
Well, it might end up being the best death, I think. Most
it's what is most well known.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's the most entertaining death scene I've personally seen in a movie. He's just losing it. Well, Rowan, no, put the stick down.
Yeah, put the stick down, honey. No.
Poor choice of words there, Nick. She put it down.
She did put it down.
She did put it down.
So, what did you think? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
We'll start with Vince. What is your rating of The Wicker Man 2006 on your Cageometer from 0 to 10? 10 being his Oscar-worthy performances. I would say if we're gonna say maybe adaptation, Leaving Las Vegas, I would put Raising Arizona because it's my favorite Nick Cage movie. But 0 out of 10, where do you put this?
I give this one a 3.
3?
I think, I got to put it at a 3. I mean, it was unintentionally hilarious, which I know that he's trying to say was the whole point. It's supposed to be a dark comedy, but his acting, we touched on this briefly, his acting was so all over the place. I mean, you could definitely tell what the early shots were because he was just all over the place. And then as the filming went on, you could see that he kind of tightened it up. But that, and then just so many just random things that don't ever have anything, never come back to fulfill anything. It was just, I'd have to say a 3.
He was for me. Surprisingly just super wooden. And just still at the beginning.
I was going to say, at the beginning when he's talking with the detective, it just seemed like he was literally just reading lines that are put in front of him when they're just having this exposition dump back and forth.
I mean, maybe
it just sounds like, it's like a one take, here, just read this in your best you voice, because it was nothing. Which maybe it was they were trying to imply he's sort of just dead inside because he's, too out of it from dealing with this dead girl, but it was bad. It took me out.
It was too.
My favorite moment of the early kind of still Nick Cage was when he popped the pill watching the cowboy movie and then just slumped back into the couch. The look on his face where he's just and then made me laugh really hard. Nigel, where do you rate The Wicker Man on your Cageometer?
I put this one as a 5.
A 5,
slightly higher than a 3, mainly because I think there were some good moments. There's definitely some memorable moments where he gives it 110% when he really didn't need to. We talked about the how to get burned bit was completely that was all him, and the director liked it enough to keep it, and it does it elevates the scene a little bit. But there was a lot of moments where he's just sleepwalking through reading his lines and delivering, it's and I don't know if that was on him or if it was on the director telling him to do these certain things a certain way and just not correcting him and asking him to give him a better performance. But I'll give him more than a 2 or a 3 because there are moments that are more memorable. There are definitely parts that he elevates the performance of delivering certain lines, but there's also a lot of him just talking and sleepwalking through lines that he's delivering that are just very bizarre. And I don't know how much of that was him or how much of that was the director not giving him direction or giving him direction to act specifically wooden.
In the commentary, he said that Nick added a lot to it, that he he had a lot of ideas for what he wanted in each scene. There was apparently whole section, like a whole day's worth of shooting that they decided not to do at all, where he had a big line when he was about to be burned and stuff like that he was going to say, and he was like, if I was in that moment, I wouldn't say anything. I'd just be like, please don't kill me. Which makes a lot of sense,
Yeah. I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say something about a wooden performance in a movie called The Wicker Man. It was kind of thematic, and they were asking him to do that. But I don't think that was the intent.
I feel like, maybe some of it is on to performance from the original movie, because he was very subdued. The guy who was, we should really say his name, but I'm not going to look it up right now. But the guy who was the original protagonist from the 73 version was very calm and subdued. He was very he was a grounding force in the movie because everything else was nuts. And he was just this symbol of authority, a cop, from the very beginning. He was very put together. So I thought maybe they were kind of going for that. And that played into Nick Cage's performance a little bit, but
could be
yeah.
He's trying to be an everyman too much to the point where he just doesn't have a gravitas to his character. He's just there.
I think that's the great thing about Nick Cage in general is he can be the zaniest, most out of touch mental case, and he can be a leading man. He has that range. But I think it depends on his mood and how he's feeling about a certain project. So we kind of got somewhere in the middle, kind of in both camps at different times. I gave it, on my Cageometer, I gave it a 4. So we kind of equal out to 4. And that's, like you guys were saying, he's kind of, the movie itself is a poor version of the 73 version. Even though the 73 version isn't that great of a movie, you took a great movie or a not so great movie and made it even worse and made it more ridiculous and made it make less sense, because the virgin sacrifice thing made a lot of sense in the first one for pagan idolatry and stuff. But the fucking just over elaborate, let's go get a guy and have sex with him. And then 10 years from now, we'll bait him into coming to the island, then play a game with him for the whole, time for 3 days while we get ready for the Wicker Man to be finished. And part of it, I wonder if maybe that's what it was, is they're just playing games with him because the Wicker Man's not done. Obviously it's not done because those guys were still building it. Yeah,
they had a timetable, and maybe because they didn't know when he was going to show up. So that could
but
be
also I feel by pagan standards, they would have to sacrifice him on the solstice, right? Isn't that a thing?
Probably.
I would assume
something like that.
But then that also leads to okay, if he didn't show up at that time, or if he was just well, fuck that bitch, she ran out on me. What was their backup plan? Was it Pimply
Maybe
Joe?
They actually burned the girl.
Yeah, maybe they burned the girl. Yeah.
Maybe that's what Pimply Joe is. He's the backup, and he's been pre-crippled and pre-stung by the bees, and he's just hanging out in the bed in case they need him.
Yeah. Maybe they put the cage thing over his head and stung him, and his eye swole up.
And broke his legs, and now he's bedridden, and they're just keeping him there.
Maybe.
That actually would be an explanation for why that fucking thing is in that shot is in the movie.
That makes the most sense out of why the hell that guy was in the movie in the first place, aside from being creepy. All right, so our
still doesn't
final
explain the
tally
naked chick covered in bees.
Yeah, that nothing explains that.
Just to be weird, like you said, it was probably an homage to The Shining. I did hear that it was either the writer or I think it was the cinematographer made a few overt Shining references. There's a 237 in the movie, and then I guess that whole sequence was kind of him running in on the guy getting the blowjob in a dog costume. So our final tally on the Cageometer for the Wicker Man 2006 version is 4 out of 10.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I don't know!
God!
What is it? What's wrong, sister?
Don't be frightened. Killing me won't bring back your goddamn honey! What is it? 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 Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Open my eyes! My eyes! Ah! Ah!
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. Be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, any comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Cage. In our next episode, we'll be tackling Grand Isle, the story of a handyman who seeks the sage advice of Kelsey Grammer in an attempt to clear his name of murder that he received after a very confusing and wacky night hanging out with Nick Cage and his wife to weather a storm. It currently holds an impressive 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. So you know it's gonna be good. Make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Looks like at the time of the recording, it's currently available for free on Crackle. If you're into that kind of thing, I didn't even know Crackle was still around. But make sure to check it out before we watch the next movie. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
What's in the bag? A shark or something?
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon, where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
God damn it!